Welcome to That's No Class. I'm Brian Baruman.
And I'm Morgan Darian.
Welcome back to the home of class. Friend, the beanie debate, it really scratched an itch I think that people must have been feeling about these people walking amongst us wearing seasonally inappropriate clothing.
I like this.
Did you hear?
And then immediately after we did the episode, it was a really hot day and I wore a beanie.
Yes, you did. Of course. But yeah, we had one listener leave us a message telling us her thoughts about beanies.
So something that I think about when I think about beanies is, you know how when people take off, like if someone's wearing like a baseball cap or something, that they take off their hat as a sign of respect, like when certain people enter the room, or if you're in a certain type of place, you take off your hat to be respectful of the area or whatever. I feel like beanie wearers are so much less likely to take off their beanie as a sign of respect. And maybe that's just me, but that's what I've observed.
It's not just you. It's totally not just you.
That's so true. Well, okay, I can see the plight of the beanie wearer because it will totally mess with your hair. But rude.
Yeah, I mean, I think that I love this idea that a person's entire character is like completely represented by this one piece of clothing. But we haven't heard from any summertime soft-handed Apple IT beanie wearers, as Morgan calls them, though. So call the voicemail if you're like a true defender of the beanie and say that you will rep this look with no shame anytime. Let us know. We'll hear you out. Call us, 877-7-NO-CLASS. All right. Thanks for that call. That was from our listener, Jessica.
Nice.
Thanks, Jessica. All right, let's get to some news.
Now here's the news.
Okay, so Disney is back on our show.
Oh, no.
But now I'm giving Disney some props on this episode. It's slightly different.
What?
Okay, so Walt Disney World owns a giant piece, I should say the Disney Company owns a giant piece of land in Florida that Walt Disney World sits on along with all the other theme parks that it owns. There's no houses or anything on it. It's all Disney property. It has been since the 60s, and it actually has its own governing district set up by the company. Yes, it's kind of been in the news a little bit. So it's like a mini county. And it has a board that runs it. It's like in LA, we have the LA County Board of Supervisors, and these are the people that, determine county things. So Disney really had its own magic kingdom, really. And they've been butting heads with Florida's governor for like the last year. And I want to remind our listeners that we don't talk politics on this show, and this is not a political story, and I am not saying anything about Governor Ron DeSantis, and this has nothing to do with politics.
Okay.
To me, this is this angle we're focusing on is just funny because I'm just framing this story as a business versus government story.
Okay.
That's it. It's not political.
Gotcha.
And so Florida's governor wanted to get control over this district. The reasons may be political, whatever. You guys figure that out. But he wanted to and did replace that board that governed that district with his own hand-picked board that would oversee that region, basically removing Disney's like all-encompassing power over this district. But we just learned within the last week that Disney had a little trick up its sleeve.
Okay.
And nobody, including the new board that got replaced and the governor, found out about it until this week when we all learned about it and it was in the news. Surprise. So Disney made a deal with the old board before it was replaced, this like signed contract deal that guaranteed Disney the authority to expand its parks and properties within that district for 30 years going forward. And there's a special clause in it that makes that guarantee last, quote, until 21 years after the death of the last survivor of the descendants of King Charles III, King of England.
Stop.
And so
What?
the new board is trying to do some stuff, and then I guess somebody was like, you can't actually do that because of this contract. And they were like, what contract? And it got pulled out, and they were like, what the? And so this whole thing has happened. They had no idea. The governor had no idea. And so the new board is like, our hands are tied. We can't overwrite it. It's written into law, and there's nothing that we can do. And they're all pissed, and they're like, Disney totally like freaking sleight of handed us with this thing. And so
should have known.
Yeah,
should have known not to mess with Disney.
Should have known not to mess with Disney. I mean, but yeah. So governor says he's going to get lawyers involved and see if it's actually legal and try to undo it. And who knows, maybe it'll work. But it just cracked me up, dude, because Disney is just such a funny and sneaky company. Like, such a sneaky little move to do.
It's really funny.
Like, nothing you can do about it.
I'm like, sorry. It's so specific.
So specific and wild. And, like, that wild clause is such a, like, F you.
Yeah.
It's such a, like, we're going to put this.
How are you going to get around this one?
Figure this one out.
I like that.
Anyway, so that's mine. What do you got?
Okay. So the New York Times tells us of a 29-year-old woman. Let's just let that sink in. 29 years old. Think about where you were at 29, at almost 30. This woman is being charged because she made up fake documents so she could attend high school. Did she need a diploma? No. She's a college graduate with a degree in political science and Chinese. She said she was lonely. It's too sad. After her divorce and missed the good old days of being in high school, she pled not guilty despite clearly making the documents. So she is in fact guilty. She made a false birth certificate. So I'm like, yeah, that's a lot of effort to then plead not guilty. Like, dude, you have been caught.
Yeah.
I almost didn't do this story because it's too sad. Like, she's just lonely. Like, that's so sad.
That's really sad. What's the charge? Is it fraud or some sort of?
Yeah, and she falsified documents because you have to give official documents to the school.
Yeah.
And so now everyone's in a hubbub because they're like, how could you let an adult into the school?
So she actually made it in?
Yeah, she went there for 4 days.
She went there for 4 days?
Yeah. Well, okay. But in the school's defense, they have to allow a student in even if they don't have their documents yet. Yeah. Because of I think there's kids who need help and stuff are changing schools. Yeah, so they're okay, we'll just let you in.
That's how it works.
And then you'll get the documents later.
Yeah.
So that's probably what happened and why she could attend for 4 days because they probably got them by day 2 or 3 and then processed them. Yeah. And then they were like, ooh, this is not real.
Man, that is, I mean, what this really makes me think of is, I know that your 20s are really culturally described as being the most fun times and the most wild times.
Right.
For a lot of people, 20s suck.
Yeah.
And I can see how people got their degrees, did everything, got into the real professional world, and they were like, I don't have any friends.
Yeah.
My life kind of sucks.
Yeah.
And everyone told me that it was going to be better than this, and this is all that it is.
Yeah.
That's sad.
And you have so much responsibility and you don't know what you're doing and you feel like everyone's doing better than you. And
totally.
You're just like, can I please go back to a simpler time when we just went to the mall and laughed about stupid jokes?
The weird thing to me though is why high school and not college?
I don't know. I mean, you could totally fit into college. But I guess you have to pay for college. So
there you go. Just came down to the dollars and cents. Okay. Well,
pretty interesting.
I hope she feels better after this.
I hope she's okay.
Because paying that fee is not going to solve the hole in her heart.
Exactly.
That she has. This poor woman.
But
Help
I think
out.
she's headed home after this. She has to
headed home? What does that
she
mean?
She lives in a different country.
Oh.
So she didn't even have family here.
What?
I know.
That's so much weirder. She's not even American, and she's like, I want to, because I've heard that American high schools are very different, extremely different from other countries' high schools.
Yeah, I guess. No, but she went here for high school.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. That's really wild. Okay. Jeez. All right, well, when we come back, we're going to have some more news, and then we'll have something totally new. So thanks so much for listening. We'll be right back. Welcome back. So it's time for more news in our segment we creatively call Double News.
Now here's the news!
Again! I did really well with that one.
You did really good.
Okay. So this week's news story research led me all over the place, and I hope that my picks are not too safe or boring, but it was these or multiple stories about guys getting arrested for having sex with different pieces of furniture. So I was like, maybe let's choose science over these weirdos. Like, I guess it's not hurting anyone, but maybe do it at home or in a quiet corner of IKEA without anyone present. The end tables are looking especially nice this year, rounded and firm. Anyway, okay, so I have two small science-y stories.
Okay.
My first double news story is about engineered meat. According to Business Insider, an Australian startup made a volleyball-sized meatball from extinct woolly mammoth DNA. Did you see this?
I saw it, but I didn't look in the details.
Okay,
Tell
yeah.
me more.
So no one tasted it, which I think is a shame.
That is
but
a
it's
shame.
because they were worried humans would be allergic because it's a 5,000-year-old meat. They didn't want to test it on us. But I'm like, it's
What?
meat.
It's
We're
meat.
probably fine.
What difference does that
Who's
make?
allergic to a meat anyway? Like, I have not heard of that really at all.
That was a dumb precaution.
Yeah, I think
Someone
so,
should have
too.
tasted
Like,
this crap.
Someone would have done it. Okay, the company is doing it to raise awareness that this can be a possibility for future meats.
Sure.
But, yeah, they'll be making meats that we're accustomed to, not woolly mammoth, although it would be kind of wild. I mean, they said it smelled really good.
I'm sure humans 5,000 years ago were eating it.
That's what they said.
So what the heck is the problem?
They're just worried that we, like, changed our insides too much or something.
Man,
But it's like, whatever.
that is a wasted
We
opportunity.
could eat almost anything,
Yeah.
probably, and live. We're like cockroaches.
You can eat a sewer rat
Yes, we
and
could.
live.
Yes.
So what are we talking
what
about
the heck?
here?
So I was a little disappointed with them in that. Be better, guys.
Somebody ate that.
Somebody
Somebody ate that for
Afterwards?
sure. No doubt.
Love it. Okay, my second little story is this. You know how scientists just kind of confirmed that velociraptors probably had feathers?
I did not, but I mean,
What?
I know that the feather thing
yeah,
is
okay.
a thing. I
So
didn't.
that's
I hadn't
like
heard
a
that
thing.
particular.
Oh, for velociraptors. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was their example.
Okay.
So now they're saying the T-Rex most likely had scaly lips that went over their teeth.
Okay.
And
Questions here already,
Yeah,
but go
okay,
ahead.
okay.
Continue.
I really want them to make a Jurassic Park with these changes because although it will still be terrifying, I think these two little things will make a big difference in the dinosaurs appearing like monsters versus appearing like animals. Like
Okay.
basically the T-Rex is now a dog.
It's like, see, I don't understand this though. I saw
What?
this headline and I
Okay.
didn't get it because I was like, of course it has lips. It's not like it's walking around with its teeth exposed all
No,
the
but
time.
I think like how we've made the movies and stuff, the teeth are out, and they're saying it would have been covered by lips, even when they're roaring and eating and opening their mouth.
So it's like
Yeah,
all the time. So how does
like
it
you
eat?
could. They said you could barely see like the tips of a few teeth.
I just don't see how that's different from like all animals. Like
That's what I'm
lizards
saying.
already
but, like,
now
we've
have that.
said that they didn't have it over their teeth.
I don't know. I've seen
Before
Jurassic Park
this.
like 100,000 times, and they close their mouths, and their teeth aren't showing.
Maybe you're right.
I just
But that's what the scientists were saying, that we didn't think this before. Now we think this.
Oh,
Because-
so they were saying that. Okay.
Yeah, because the reason they think this is because they can see the wear on the teeth versus like I think it's a certain crocodile or something doesn't have lips over something.
So they're always showing.
And you can and there's a wear pattern and the T-Rex doesn't have that wear pattern.
Mm-hmm.
So they were like they had to have had like lips.
It sounds like you're kind of saying that like the people who made the T-Rex in Jurassic Park just kind of went on their own thing and it wasn't
Maybe
based
they did.
necessarily on science.
Now I'm going to have to rewatch
This
it.
is the thing. I've seen this story like for the last week and I don't get it. Somebody explain to me what the distinction is between them having lips and like
Is
not
that it look
having
like
lips.
one of those like little like dragons, you know?
Yeah, the Komodo dragon.
Yeah.
Which is how it looks in the movie.
It does?
Yeah.
Are you sure?
Like, I don't understand this walking around with teeth exposed thing. That's crazy. Who has ever drawn a T-Rex like that? And who has ever thought that a T-Rex walks around with just its teeth showing all the
So
time?
maybe we all thought it was like that, like regular humans
Yeah.
and the scientists.
And the
were
scientists
like,
were
"We
the
just
only
discovered
ones
this."
who were like, this is a discovery, man. Science is so lame
I don't
sometimes.
know.
Come on, Captain Obvious. Like, jeez. You think their mouth was just like open with their teeth showing the whole time? Who thought that? Maybe I'm
I
completely
don't
wrong. I'm not a
know.
scientist.
Now
Morgan is way more of a
I
scientist
really
than I
want
am.
to watch it again.
We'll watch
Anyway.
it. We'll
Okay,
watch
cool. We have 2 copies.
We do.
Nerds.
Everybody had Jurassic Park.
What do you got?
Okay, so there was a man, a con artist, who was striking at and ripping off the publishing industry and authors.
Okay.
So he acted like he was an editor and a literary agent, and he would pull off what were basically heists of unpublished manuscripts. Margaret Atwood, who wrote The Handmaid's Tale, and Ethan Hawke, who's an actor, both of them had theirs hit by this guy. So the weird thing about this guy's theft, though, was that the manuscripts never ended up online anywhere or in some bootleg bookstore. They just were stolen and then kept.
What?
Never made any money off them. And it had been going on since 2016. Over 1,000 manuscripts stolen by this guy.
1,000?
But no monetary gain from it. He was finally caught last year when he flew to America. It turns out 29-year-olds. There's something about 29-year-olds and these like con crimes.
Yeah.
So he was born in Italy, 29-year-old guy.
Okay.
But he worked in the publishing industry in London. He confessed to all of it. He's been in jail for the last year. He pleaded guilty to one charge of wire fraud, which could have carried a sentence of up to 20 years, but they ended up just giving him the time that he'd already spent in jail, and he's going to get deported. He's also going to pay $88,000 in restitution. But why did he do it?
Yeah.
What was the motivation? So in a letter to the judge, he said, he's just a diehard lover of books, man. He said he started loving books as a kid, and then he got an internship with a publisher, but he had a hard time getting a full-time job in the industry. And while he's working with the publishers, he saw that all the higher-ups, the editors and the managers, they'd be getting all these manuscripts and getting to read and look at these books that were amazing, but he never got to see them because he was a low-level person. And he just loved these books, and he wanted to read, and he wanted to know. So he made fake email accounts, and then he would say, oh, I'm so-and-so, I'm an editor, I need your manuscript. And, of course, they would just give it to him because it's easy and it's just a document. And he would read them. And he would love them. And he just kept doing that over and over and over again. And he said it was never his plan to release the manuscripts. It just made him feel like he was a big player in the publishing industry, getting to see and read these books before anyone else, which I can completely relate to, man. I can completely relate to this hipster feeling of wanting to be the first person to know what is up. And he said it turned into a compulsion, and he couldn't stop.
How wild.
So wild and so cool.
That's
because,
really...
like, is it really a crime? Like, it didn't go anywhere. Like, he
didn't make money off of it.
He was only charged with wire fraud and impersonation, which is so crazy that you get 20 years for that.
20 years.
Luckily, he only got 1 year. I don't know. I sound like I'm like rooting for this guy, but like
that's really wild.
So you're gonna when you get into the publishing industry, don't do this.
Now I'm worried.
Gonna get in trouble.
Not gonna get a job.
You're crazy. You're gonna do great.
Okay.
You can be your own publisher. All right, well, when we come back, we're doing a news segment based on some stuff that we've overheard out in the world. We're going to try to clear some things up in case stouts, just in case. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Best friend who says something that is so off base you have to wonder how they've gone this long thinking the wrong thing. This segment's title has morphed from things you should already know to you think what? And just to make sure you don't think we're a-holes just shiting on people, we've had this moment for each other too. It's one of my favorite moments to have with Brian because it really makes me laugh no matter if I'm in the wrong or he is. Like when Brian added cumin to the marinara sauce, I was like, that's a different flavor profile. And he was like, you can put spice in any spice in marinara. And I was like,
yes.
Wait, what?
Yes.
Or just last night, I discovered how dentures work. And I thought they clicked into something. And Brian was like, no, dude, you have to glue them in each morning. And I was like, no way. And Brian was like, So here's our new segment called, once again, you think what?
Do you understand the words that are coming out of my mouth?
Wow. Crazy. You're crazy, girl.
Okay, so mine happened at work this week. This table calls me over with these grins on their faces. And I've seen this look before. It's the one where the guests think they have something on you. It's a wild steez. And side note, I'm not even this table's server. So this guy begins with, we'd like to order some crepes. And I'm like, yeah, we don't serve crepes. And then the woman's wild grin becomes like maniacal. And she shows me her phone screen and goes, well, right here, it says you do. False advertising. And I look at her phone and it's on the Google search pages. So I'm like, it looks like the restaurant listed below us has crepes, but as you can see, our picture is of French toast. And once again, she says, well, false advertising. And I'm like, oh my God, she doesn't understand how Google works. So I kind of snort laugh and I say, yeah, I never trust Google. They get stuff wrong all the time. And I can see she's still not registering what I'm saying. She just flashes the phone at me again. So I'm like, for example, when I check for movie tickets and movie times for theaters, I always go to the site because Google is wrong half the time.
All the time.
And still, no understanding, registering on their faces. So I give up. And then in my head, I'm like, we're not in charge of how Google functions, ma'am. Like, go to our site and you will see what's on our menu. Google is just trying to guess that we have crepes because we're a breakfast spot in the area you're searching.
It's incredible. People's misunderstanding or belief that Google is literally the facts of life.
Yes.
And that it is not an intermediary
Yes.
between the information that you're trying to get and them.
Yeah.
Like, it's you're so right.
It was wild.
It drives me insane when Google's wrong. I get so
Yeah.
angry. And
But you kind of have to understand, like, they're going to be wrong sometimes.
Yeah.
Because they're just trying to, like, pull information from different things.
you're taking Google's word for it.
Yeah.
That's all you're doing.
Yeah.
Google is like your friend who's like, oh, yeah,
Right.
who, you
It's
know.
like, yeah, I think there's something around here.
I think. Yeah. It's like saying, I think.
Yeah.
Does Google serve crepes? I think so.
I think so.
What time does the movie start? 4:30, I
Maybe.
think.
I think. Why don't you check it out and click on this site instead of just believing me?
Why don't you click on the button that says website or
Yes.
whatever it is, but people don't want to take that extra second.
No, they do
Well,
not.
I'm glad that you were right.
Man, I was ready to put them in their place. I was like, excuse me? Don't smile at me like that.
Well,
False advertising. We're not advertising anything. That's not an advertisement.
no, that's not.
That's another thing wrong.
That's a whole other thing.
Anyway, what's yours?
All right. So I overheard somebody,
Okay.
a group of people actually. They apparently were all Tesla owners.
Okay.
So they're talking about cars. So, of course, I am like,
Yeah.
I'm going to be listening to this.
Yeah.
And so they're talking about their cars and how they're getting older and what they're going to do now that their warranties have expired. And they're talking about, am I going to sell it? What am I going to do? And all this kinds of stuff. Usual,
Okay.
normal car stuff, except that they're all Tesla people.
Sweet.
But the high point for me was when one person basically told the other person that they'd never need to buy another car again because they owned a Tesla and that their Tesla would basically last forever.
What?
And as a car guy, I was like, what? So the person says to this other person that there are Teslas on the road somewhere with 500,000 miles on them, still running, and that this group of people here, basically their cars are going to do the same thing because they're the same cars. And basically, there's no need to ever buy another car. Here's the thing. There are certainly Teslas out there with really high mileage. Any car can have high mileage. You can there are Toyotas. It's well known that there are Toyotas from like the 80s that have 1 million miles on them.
Oh, I'm sure.
Machines can be fixed
Yeah.
to last forever.
Yeah.
They don't inherently last forever without needing fixing, but they
Right.
can if you maintain them and replace parts
Yeah.
is the key.
That's what I was going to
And
ask.
just because it's an electric car, people have this belief now that it's like an electric car is this new style of car that is very, very maintenance low. And in some ways it
No.
is, but in a lot of ways it's exactly the same as another car. Really, the only difference is it doesn't
Yeah.
have an engine, but it has a motor, and that motor is very expensive and will not last forever.
And aren't the batteries really expensive?
Batteries are
too?
really expensive. You've
Yeah.
got an expensive thing. But yes, if it breaks down and you replace it, sure, it'll keep on running as any other car will. But the idea, it sounded like that it's just not going to happen. That doesn't happen to Teslas. That's not what Teslas do. And so these three
Yeah.
are
They're like, we're
They-
good to go.
yeah, they've got that look in their eye that they know something and they're getting something over on like the whole world. So
No.
just in case anybody is under this illusion, the bottom line is Teslas are still cars.
Yeah.
And they still break.
Yeah.
And you will have to fix it at some point.
I would imagine those parts are pretty expensive.
I looked them up. You're looking...
Like even the tires and stuff.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. No, tires, like the things that will wear out.
Yeah.
I mean, everything wears out eventually.
That's why I got rid of my BMW, because each tire was $400. I was like, I can't afford that.
Always do that, everybody. Don't, as the former, worker on, BMWs, do not own luxury cars once that warranty expires. Refer to episode 13 where I talk about warranties and what warranties are. Don't do it. Yeah. It's a liability. Let it go, even if it's a Tesla.
Let it go.
Okay.
Good one.
All right. So when we come back, it's that time already. Oh my God, we're almost at the end of the show.
Dang.
Your no class picks of the week. Of the week. No class picks of the week. We'll be right back. Stay with us. It's time to wind down the show here, bring it to a close the only proper way with our no class picks of the week.
You're just a jealous,
no class,
lazy bum.
No class pick. Okay. I have one from a listener who sent an email because they want to remain anonymous. So this person has a prominent business, and part of their business involves bringing in specialists for like consulting or talks or that kind of thing. Usually they reach out to people, but in this case, someone reached out to them saying, hey, I have these skills and this service to offer your community. Our listener emails this person back saying, hey, that's cool. Your stuff doesn't fully match what we're about, but if you have some ideas on how to incorporate what we're about, I'm all ears. Seems pretty gracious, especially given that they don't really match up with what they're doing.
It's not an outright rejection. Yeah.
Right. Then this person emails our listener back with an email so snarky, so full of attitude, saying things like, well, maybe you should check out my work and you'd see how valuable it is, and using italics to emphasize words like, I do know about blah, blah, blah. My stuff would be perfect if you knew anything about my work. Like, my dude, this is how you want to sell yourself? You're selling a product. Our listener says, how does this apply to my company? And then instead of simply telling them how it applies, you attack them like in the second email, convincing everyone that for sure no one wants to work with you.
Yeah.
Like, that's just, it is no class.
It's a bad impression. It's no class. It's amazing. Yeah. People do this a lot.
It's wild.
If there's ever any doubt, or if there's not an outright rejection, but it's just like a, hey, we're still thinking whatever. Some people double down on like this like intimidation factor. Like, you're going to be what?
Yeah. Like what are you going to do?
I'm going to be like, oh, I better do it.
Yeah.
Why?
Someone's yelling at me via email.
Yeah. This is, I should.
Oh, no.
I better hire him.
Yeah.
I better hire him.
I really want to work with this person.
In what world does that work?
I don't know.
Is there another time and place where that worked?
It's wild.
Is a guy, right?
I don't know the gender.
Probably a guy.
But yeah, our listener was just like, cool, like if you think of anything, let me know. Have a good day,
Handled it with class.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh,
the most class. I would have been so tempted to just be like, ah!
Yeah. Like let me tell you all the reasons why. This response being number one.
Yeah.
It's like crazy.
So yeah, that was a good one.
Right. Well,
Thank you for sharing.
Listener. Yeah, thanks for sharing. You did the right thing.
So you have to deal with these.
You don't want to deal with
no
that
class pieces.
person. Okay.
What's yours?
So I actually have a class pick this week. It's been a little while.
Yeah.
So there's a guy that I work with who's kind of newer, and he's got an entry-level spot. So, but I watch him, and he's a good dude.
All right.
Nice young guy, polite, does hardworking. His name is a little unusual. It sounds like a common name, but with a single different sound. So a lot of people, myself included, thought that it was the more common name the first time that he introduced himself, but that's not his name.
Okay.
And he's too nice and polite to want to correct everybody. So I hear people all the time walking around saying his name wrong, and he doesn't do anything about it. I can totally relate because I worked with a guy for about 3 years who thought my name was Ryan,
Yes.
not Brian. And after
Classic
6
mistake.
months, it just felt like, man, it's been going on for too long. I feel embarrassed for him. I'm going to feel embarrassed for him if I correct him. So, but I felt bad for this guy.
Yeah.
And so after, last week, I just couldn't take it. So I heard one more person mispronounce his name, and I pulled him aside, and I was like, hey, I think he's too shy to say anything, but that's not his name. And they were
Good
like,
job.
and so they thanked me
Oh, cool.
for telling them.
Yeah.
And we're like, oh my God, I can't believe I've been saying his name wrong this whole time. And they went over to apologize to him. And he, of course, because he's a classy guy, said, oh, it's no problem at all. Like, no big deal. It's totally cool. So
That's
it was
nice.
a network of class.
Class moves.
Helping people out.
Helping out other class moves.
And I know a lot of people would be worried to do what I did in that
Yeah,
situation because they're
totally.
like, oh, people get mad if you
Yes,
correct them or whatever.
yes.
But I think that if it comes from a good place and you're like, hey, this
Totally.
isn't about me. It's about
Yeah,
our young
help this
friend
guy
over
out.
here. And we want him to feel good and appreciate him. So it's a thing. So it all worked out okay.
I like that.
And it was good. All right, guys, that's our show. Thanks so much for being here and hanging with us. I know we thank you guys every week, and I tell you that we appreciate you. But this week, something special happened, and I again want to thank you guys from the bottom of my heart. Morgan's heart, too. We hit 500 total views on our YouTube channel this week, and it was like a total surprise. And
Yeah.
it really kicks us up on the scale of joy, man, like damn near a 10. So thank you all so much for watching this
That's
and
awesome.
listening and enjoying the show in all the ways that you do. For people who listen only, our YouTube channel has some extra things on it that you might not get if you only listen to the audio version of the show or if you're in a rush or something like that. We cut up each segment and post them on their own on YouTube. So the whole new segment is up by itself. The No Class picks are up by themselves. We also, of course, have the whole issue. We have playlists that break everything down into categories in case you really like news or you really like No Class picks. We have playlists. That only exists on the YouTube, so that's there if you want to see that. So check it out. We want to thank Morgan's sister so much because literally the only reason we do this on video is because of her.
It's true.
She said you should do it on YouTube, which everybody says, of course.
Yeah.
And we were like, nah, we got to focus on, we're not there yet. We're not there yet.
Yeah.
And she was like, well, I would really enjoy it if you did it. And I know there's people like me who would really only like to watch it. So we said,
Yeah.
okay, it was a pain in the freaking butt. And we had to figure out how to do all this stuff and make it work. But we did it. And we
Yeah.
really enjoy watching
Yeah,
it too,
that
actually.
is
So
different.
thank you, Willa, for doing that and telling us. And thank you guys so much for watching. You guys are the best. Reach out to us everywhere. We're on Twitter at That's No Class, Instagram at That's No Class, YouTube, as I just said, and TikTok. Join the conversation. That's noclass@gmail.com. And as always, we want your No Class picks. Call the voicemail 877-7-NO-CLASS. We love hearing from you guys. We love having your stories on the show.
Stay classy.
Stay classy and have a great week.